Hello student. First we have seen what is ecosystem. Now we are going to see one example of ecosystem, garden ecosystem. And next, the relationship between environment and ecosystem. The changes take place in the environment, how they affect to the ecosystem, and what is need to conserve the environment, and what laws are made by the government to conserve environment.
All the components of an ecosystem interact with each other either directly or indirectly. Let us look at some of the interactions that take place in a garden ecosystem. Plants interact with other components of the ecosystem in many ways. The roots of the plant take up water and nutrients from the soil and pass it to the rest of the plant. The water and the nutrients help the plant to gradually grow into a tree. The tree becomes a major source of food for different levels of consumers. Animals feed on plants. Human beings and birds too eat plants and plant products. When these consumers die, their remains get deposited on the garden floor. Leaves dry and fall, plants wilt and die, their remains too get deposited on the garden floor. Due to the changing temperature and other climatic conditions, the dead plants and animals decay. Decomposing microorganisms act on these remains and break them down into simpler, inorganic substances that then mix with the soil. These substances are nutrients for plants. Plant roots absorb them and use them for growth and development. Thus, there is a continuous and complex interaction between different components of the ecosystem. Any effect on a component of the ecosystem would adversely affect the other components.
Man exploits nature and its resources for its own personal needs and social development. This has led to many unfriendly changes in the environment. Changes in the environment directly affect the balance of the ecosystem. For example, man cuts trees for building houses, but it leads to deforestation. Many birds, insects and animals living on these trees are forced to leave the area due to this activity. Man has been responsible for the destruction of environment. Various important elements of the ecosystem, such as air, water and soil, are losing its natural properties due to human activities. The weather and climatic conditions have also been altered because of this. A very dangerous scenario has been created by man due to the never-ending exploitation and extraction of natural resources. How are we going to save and preserve our environment? Let's think about it. The main causes of changes in the environment are population growth, transport systems, encroachment of reservoirs, encroachment of agricultural land, deforestation, shifting cultivation, tourism, construction of dams, war and mining activities. Click each tab to learn more about the causes of environmental changes.
Now we have seen what is the need to save and conserve the environment and what are the causes of environmental changes. First one is population growth. Because of the population growth, there are some changes in the environment. Next thing is a transport system. Transport system, how it pollute the air, then soil or other natural factors. Then next is the encroachment of the reservoirs, then encroachment of agricultural land, deforestation, shifting cultivation, tourism, construction of dams, wars, mining activities. These are the causes of environmental changes.
Let's recapitulate what we have just learned.
The Ganges, a symbol of purity that once flowed abundantly with rich. The Ganges, a symbol of purity that once flowed abundantly with rich fertile deposits, is now one of the many examples of how human activities are damaging the environment. It is the need of hour to make and follow stringent provisions that protect and nurture our environment. Let's get acquainted with some of the key international and national policies that have been constituted for the protection of our environment. Addressing global environmental issues requires cooperation at an international level. This led to the first United Nations Conference on Human Environment, which was held in Stockholm, Sweden, from 5th June to 16th June 1972. Representatives from 113 countries came together with several international and non-governmental organizations to launch the United Nations Environment Programme. The United Nations Environment Programme was launched to encourage international participation and cooperation in addressing environmental issues and policies, to monitor the status of the global environment and interpret the environmental data collected, to create environmental awareness in governments, society and private sector, to coordinate activities of United Nations pertaining to the environment, to develop regional programs for sustainability and to assist environmental authorities, especially those in developing countries, to form and implement environment-related policies and develop international environmental law. The Indian Constitution is one of the few national constitutions to incorporate special provisions and put obligations on the state and citizens to protect and improve the environment and to preserve the natural resources of the earth. In 1980, the Department of Environment was established in India, which later became the Ministry of Environment and Forests in 1985. In line with the UNEP, the Ministry of Environment and Forest of India to lay down several laws and guidelines for prevention, control and abatement of pollution. Let's understand the role and objectives of the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, which was laid down in 1974. Click each button to learn more. To execute the acts properly, the Indian government has set up the Central Pollution Control Board or CPCB along with its counterparts, State Pollution Control Boards. In Maharashtra, the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board or MPCB keeps a check on implementation of the acts. Let's understand the powers and functions of the CPCB. Click each button to learn more. Let's summarize what we have learned so far.